Listen carefully. I'm not asking you a question to be polite. I'm asking because your body already knows the answer. Why do you shake when pressure hits? Why does your breath shorten, your chest tighten, your thoughts scatter like birds under gunfire? You don't need to explain it to me. You've lived it. Pressure doesn't knock on the door. It kicks it in. And the moment it enters, most people don't rise to meet it. They shrink. They hide. They hope it passes. But here's the truth most people avoid. What scares you under pressure is not the situation. It's the mirror. Pressure doesn't create fear. It reveals it. It strips away your rehearsed personality and exposes the raw version underneath. And many men cannot stand what they see when the mask falls. That's why pressure feels suffocating. It forces you to confront the question you've been avoiding your entire life. Who are you when nothing is stable? Machiavelli understood this long before psychology gave it a name. He knew necessity is the ultimate judge. Pressure is necessity. It doesn't care about your intentions. It doesn't care about your excuses. It drags your true nature into the light and asks you to perform without preparation. Most people fail here not because they lack intelligence, but because they were trained to be harmless, safe, manageable, polite. They were conditioned to obey fear instead of command it. But inside you, whether you admit it or not, there is something else. Not a loud creature, not a reckless one. Something colder, quieter, sharper. A version of you that doesn't panic when the room tightens. A version that doesn't flinch when eyes turn hostile. This thing doesn't explode under pressure. It condenses, like carbon turning into diamond. Pressure doesn't break it. Pressure gives it shape. This is the monster people misunderstand. Not chaos, not rage. Control. The monster is not fearless. That's a myth told by weak men to excuse their reactions. The monster feels fear fully, but fear does not steer the wheel. Fear becomes data. Noise becomes signal. Chaos becomes clarity. While others react, this version of you waits. While others rush, it calculates. While others expose themselves emotionally, it remains unreadable. Here is the difference that changes everything. The harmless man hopes pressure goes away. The monster assumes pressure is permanent and adapts accordingly. One lives in avoidance. The other lives in preparation. Pressure is not an emergency to the monster. It is familiar terrain. Like a storm to a sailor who learned to read the sky instead of curse the wind. Look at your life honestly. You didn't come here because things were easy. You came here because something inside you is tired of folding, tired of losing composure, tired of surrendering ground in moments that matter. You want to become the version of yourself that pressure cannot bend, not louder, not angrier, stronger in stillness. That transformation does not begin with confidence tricks or motivational noise. It begins with a decision. A quiet one. The decision to stop running from pressure and start letting it train you. Monsters are not born in comfort. They are forged in moments where escape is no longer an option. When the door closes, when the room tightens, when everyone expects you to crack. Imagine pressure as fire. For most men, it consumes. For the prepared, it hardens. Steel does not fear the forge. It requires it. Without heat, it remains brittle. Without pressure, it never becomes useful. You are no different. The version of you that collapses under pressure is unfinished material. The version you are about to build is something else entirely. This is not about becoming cruel. It is about becoming capable. Capability changes how the world treats you. Capability changes how you breathe in chaos. Capability changes how fear behaves inside your chest. And once you taste that internal authority, you never want to go back. Because the moment you stop running from pressure, pressure stops chasing you. Pressure doesn't start in your mind. That's the first illusion you need to destroy. It starts in your body. Long before a thought forms, your physiology betrays you. Your heart accelerates without permission. Your shoulders rise, your jaw tightens, your breath becomes shallow and frantic, like your body is preparing to flee before you've even decided what's happening. Most men never notice this takeover. They just call it stress and let it drive. Machiavelli would have seen this as a fatal weakness. A man who cannot command himself cannot command outcomes. And under pressure, your body is the first territory that gets invaded. Once it's compromised, the mind follows. Panic is not a thought problem. It's a physical coup. The monster understands something most people never learn. Control does not begin with thinking differently. It begins with inhabiting your body differently. When pressure hits, stillness becomes strength. Slowness becomes authority. The moment you deliberately slow your breathing, you interrupt the survival script running in your nervous system. You are telling your biology, "Stand down, I'm in charge." This is not mysticism, it's mechanics. Slow breath lowers heart rate. Lower heart rate widens perception. Wider perception restores choice, and choice is power. When your body obeys you instead of reacting automatically, pressure loses its grip. You stop being dragged by the moment and start directing it. Picture a high-tension situation. Voices are raised, eyes are watching, stakes are real. Most men unconsciously speed up. They speak faster, move faster, think faster, and in doing so, they surrender timing. They surrender precision. They surrender leverage. The monster does the opposite. He slows down on purpose. His breathing deepens. His movements become economical. His face becomes unreadable. This is where intimidation begins, not through aggression, but through contrast. Humans fear what does not mirror them. When chaos meets calm, chaos feels exposed. When panic meets composure, panic feels weak. Your body language becomes a message louder than words. You are not affected. Commanding your physiology buys you something priceless. Time. Time to observe. Time to let others reveal themselves. Time to allow impulsive people to overextend while you conserve energy. In pressure, the man who stays steady always outlasts the man who reacts. Not because he is stronger, but because he is not leaking power through his nervous system. This is why stillness unnerves people. It denies them feedback. They don't know if they've rattled you. They don't know if they've won. And uncertainty is psychologically destabilizing. Your controlled body becomes a weapon simply by refusing to play the same tempo as everyone else. But this control is trained, not imagined. Every time you stay composed under stress, you reinforce the circuitry. Every time you slow your breath instead of speeding it up, you build a new default. Over time, pressure stops triggering panic and starts triggering focus. The monster doesn't rise accidentally. He is conditioned. Think of your body like a warhorse. Untamed, it panics at noise and bolts at shadows. Trained, it moves through fire without flinching. The difference is not bravery. It's repetition under stress. You are training your physiology to associate pressure with control instead of collapse. When your body is steady, your mind becomes surgical. Thoughts sharpen. Emotions quiet. Strategy replaces impulse. This is why the most dangerous people in history were not the loudest or the fastest, but the calmest under threat. Their bodies did not betray them, so their minds could operate freely. Pressure will always try to rush you. Your job is to slow yourself down. That is the pivot point where weakness turns into dominance. When your body obeys you, fear has nowhere to hide. Once your body is under command, the next enemy reveals itself. Emotion. Not feeling itself, but impulse. The reflex to act before thinking. This is where most men lose everything. Not because the situation was impossible, but because they reacted too quickly to what they felt. Anger explodes and burns leverage. Panic forces movement where patience would have won. Desire rushes decisions and exposes weakness. Emotion, when unchecked, hijacks authority. Machiavelli understood this with brutal clarity. A ruler who allows passion to dictate action hands power to chance. And chance is never loyal. The monster does not erase emotion. That fantasy belongs to fools. He studies it. He treats emotion like weather, information, not instruction. Anger tells him there has been a violation. Fear signals risk. Excitement highlights opportunity. But none of these get to decide what happens next. Emotion knocks. The monster decides whether the door opens. This is where most people collapse under pressure. They mistake intensity for urgency. They believe the strength of a feeling justifies immediate action. But intensity is not truth. It is distortion. Like looking through a warped lens. Acting while emotionally flooded is like swinging a weapon blindfolded. You might hit something, but you won't hit what matters. The discipline here is interception. You feel the surge, but you pause before it becomes behavior. That pause is everything. It is the space where power is reclaimed. While others are dragged forward by impulse, you step back into calculation. And that shift alone changes the entire dynamic. People expect reaction. They provoke for it. They depend on it. An emotional reaction gives them control because it makes you predictable. Once they know what triggers you, they own a lever. The monster removes that lever by refusing to move on cue. His restraint creates uncertainty, and uncertainty creates fear in others. Think of a chess player. He does not slam pieces down because he feels pressure. He slows down when the game intensifies. He sees further because he is not emotionally attached to the next move. That is how monsters operate under pressure. They are not rushing to discharge emotion. They are positioning. Killing emotional impulse does not make you passive. It makes you precise. You choose when to speak, when to move, when to strike, when to wait. That selectivity turns ordinary actions into statements of dominance. A word spoken late carries more weight than 10 spoken early. A move made at the right moment rewrites the board. This is why non-reaction terrifies people. Silence forces projection. Others fill the gap with their own anxiety. They speak too much. They reveal too much. They expose their intent, while you remain opaque. Your stillness becomes pressure applied invisibly. But this level of control demands something uncomfortable. You must let emotion pass without indulging it. You must tolerate the internal discomfort of not reacting. Most men can't. They need release. They need validation. They need to discharge tension immediately. The monster understands that containment is power. What you can hold without leaking becomes a weapon. Picture pressure as a rising tide. The impulsive man splashes, thrashes, exhausts himself. The monster floats, conserves energy, watches currents. When the moment is right, he moves with minimal effort and maximum effect. This discipline rewires your identity. You stop being someone who is triggered. You become someone who is read as dangerous because you cannot be rushed, baited, or steered. People begin to hesitate around you. They choose words more carefully. They test less often, not because you threaten them, but because you didn't react when they expected you to. That is dominance at the psychological level. Quiet, controlled, relentless. When you kill emotional impulse, you don't lose humanity. You gain sovereignty. You feel fully, but you act selectively. And under pressure, that separation is the difference between being consumed by the moment and owning it. Because the man who controls his reactions controls the tempo of reality around him. Once reactions are neutralized, something else becomes possible: control over time. Most people think pressure is about intensity. It's not. It's about speed. Pressure accelerates everything. Voices rise. Decisions compress. Expectations tighten. And in that acceleration, mistakes multiply. The fastest man in the room is usually the weakest. Machiavelli understood this better than most. He knew that the man who controls timing controls outcomes. Acting too early exposes you. Acting too late costs you. Mastery lives in tempo. And tempo is not something you follow. It is something you impose. The monster under pressure refuses to be rushed. When others speed up, he slows down. Not out of hesitation, but out of authority. Slowness under stress signals confidence. It tells the room you are not scrambling for answers. You already have them, or you are patient enough to wait until the right one reveals itself. This is where panic loses its power. Panic demands immediacy. It whispers that if you don't act now, you'll lose everything. The monster does not obey this voice. He understands that urgency is often a trap designed to strip you of choice. When you move at someone else's pace, you are playing their game. Operating at your own tempo bends the environment around you. In chaotic situations, calm becomes a focal point. People subconsciously orient toward it. They mirror it, or they resent it. Either way, you gain influence. Your pause becomes heavier than their movement. Imagine a confrontation where everyone is talking at once. The harmless man tries to match volume. The monster goes silent. He lets the noise peak. He lets impatience expose intention. Then, when the room is stretched thin, he speaks once, and the room listens. Tempo is also armor. When someone tries to provoke you into rash action, your controlled pacing deflects the attack. You deny them the emotional payoff. You deny them control of the clock, and without control of timing, their leverage dissolves. This is why patience is misunderstood. People think patience is waiting because you're unsure. In reality, patience is waiting because you see more than others. It is restraint backed by confidence. The monster doesn't wait because he's weak. He waits because he knows exactly when pressure will break someone else. Training this requires awareness. You must notice when pressure tries to speed you up, when your voice wants to rise, when your movements want to rush. Then you deliberately slow them. Every time you resist external tempo, you strengthen internal authority. Think of time like a weapon. In the wrong hands, it cuts the wielder. In trained hands, it becomes lethal. By choosing when to act, you force others to reveal themselves first. Their impatience becomes your information. Eventually, people stop trying to rush you. They learn it doesn't work. They sense that forcing urgency only benefits you. And in that realization, the power dynamic shifts permanently. You are no longer reacting to events. Events are unfolding around your rhythm. The monster does not chase moments. He lets them come to him, and when they do, he is ready. This is the paradox of dominance. The less you rush, the more control you have. The less you react, the more others hesitate. And hesitation is the crack where power enters. Because the man who controls tempo controls the battlefield. Now we arrive at the final transformation. This is where everything converges. Fear, pressure, stillness, timing. Most men spend their lives trying to eliminate fear. They treat it like a disease, something shameful, something to escape. And in doing so, they hand it absolute power over their decisions. Machiavelli would call this naivete. Fear is not the enemy. Fear is a resource, a signal system embedded in your body to highlight stakes, danger, opportunity. The problem has never been fear itself. The problem is obedience to it. The monster under pressure does not seek fearlessness. That illusion belongs to the reckless and the dead. Instead, he seeks sovereignty. He allows fear to exist without letting it dictate. He listens without obeying. He feels without surrendering. This is where most people break. When fear rises, they interpret it as a command to retreat, explain, rush, or submit. Their nervous system grabs the wheel. The monster does something radically different. He studies fear like a map. He asks where it came from, what triggered it, what information it carries. Then he uses it. Fear sharpens perception when you don't fight it. It slows subjective time. It heightens awareness. It pulls your attention into the present moment. For the untrained, this becomes panic. For the trained, it becomes clarity. The same adrenaline that paralyzes one man turns another into a precision instrument. This is the final discipline. Separation. The sensation of fear is allowed. The impulse to act on it is denied. That gap is where mastery lives. Inside that gap, you choose deliberately. You slow your breathing. You ground your posture. You widen your awareness. And suddenly fear loses its teeth. Think of fear like fire again. Run from it and it chases you. Fall into it blindly and it consumes you. Contain it and it powers the engine. The monster does not extinguish fear. He harnesses it. This is why pressure eventually becomes fuel instead of threat. The more intense the situation, the more information is revealed. Others rush. Others expose desperation. Others fracture. You remain centered, and that contrast creates dominance without confrontation. When you stop reacting to fear, something profound happens. People sense it. They don't know why, but they feel it. A man who can stand in fear without leaking it becomes unreadable, and what cannot be read cannot be controlled. This is the point where pressure reverses roles. It no longer presses you. It presses everyone else around you. Your calm transfers tension outward. Your stillness amplifies their anxiety. Your silence forces them to act first, to speak first, to overextend. Pressure becomes your ally because it reveals weakness everywhere except where you stand. You no longer need to create intimidation. You simply stop collapsing, and the environment does the rest. Understand this clearly. Monsters are not created by rage. They are created by discipline, by thousands of small decisions not to react, not to rush, not to explain. Each moment you choose control over impulse, you add another layer to the fortress. This is not a single breakthrough. It is a lifestyle, a way of moving through the world. You walk slower when others rush. You speak less when others overtalk. You act later when others act early. And in doing so, you gain leverage without asking for it. The world will try to bend you. It will provoke you. It will rush you. It will attempt to pull reactions out of you because reactions are how control is transferred. But now you understand the game. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The monster under pressure is not born. He is forged. Forged every time fear appears and you don't obey it. Forged every time chaos rises and you slow down. forged every time someone expects you to break, and you remain intact. This is what Machiavelli meant by self-conquest, not domination over others, but absolute command over the internal state. The man who controls himself cannot be ruled. He may be challenged, he may be tested, but he will not be owned. So let this settle. Pressure does not crush the prepared. It exposes the unprepared. Fear does not weaken the disciplined. It sharpens them. And calm is not passive. Calm is lethal when paired with intent. From this point forward, you no longer fear high-stakes moments. You welcome them, because you know something others don't. Pressure is where masks fall, and when they do, you remain standing. That is the awakening. Pressure was never sent to destroy you. It was sent to introduce you to yourself. Every moment you felt your chest tighten, your breath shorten, your mind race. You were standing at the edge of transformation. Most men retreat there. You chose to stay. Now you understand the difference. Power is not loud. Control is not emotional. Dominance is not aggression. It is discipline under fire. It is stillness when chaos demands reaction. It is patience when fear screams for movement. You are no longer trying to escape pressure. You are training inside it. Each breath you slow, each impulse you refuse, each moment you choose timing over panic, you forge something rare, a mind that cannot be rushed, a body that does not betray you, a presence that unsettles without effort. The world will test you again. It always does. But now, when pressure arrives, it will not find a man looking for safety. It will find someone already in command.